Okay, it's your job to monitor this. So you have to, every lesson, make sure that I've switched it on. So there's a little red record there. And if it's still on green, then you need to remind you to switch it on. Simply and right, just before you sit, let me give you notes. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. It's easier if you sit towards the center of the room.
Oh, yeah.
Simply because it's such a funny angle to see everything at.
Okay.
So if we can get you in the center, that's better. Right, let's go. Okay, so the story goes, there will be a PowerPoint. On the Zoom thing, it's another image. Okay, anyway, so there will be a PowerPoint. I will put a PowerPoint onto Moodle for you for every section. These PowerPoints are not as detailed in terms of, no, they are. I'll tell you why. So the PowerPoints that you had during lockdown, where you had online lessons, I put a lot of detail into them because you weren't in class and it was a different way of teaching. So all the detail I actually typed into that stuff. Now, generally speaking, if the whole class is here, the PowerPoints are not going to be that detailed, but two issues here. Firstly, the whole class is not here, so the PowerPoints will be detailed. And secondly, this section is not in your textbook. So this section in the Department of Education, and remember that your textbooks are government school textbooks. There's only one textbook that was specifically written for the IEB, and it's not ideal quality. So your textbook is good quality, but it's written for IEB, for government schools, and the sections are different. So there's at least one grade 12 section that's in the grade 11 textbook, and there's at least one grade 11 section for us that is in the grade 12 textbook, and that's this section. So it's not in your textbook. So that's why I've given you notes, and you will see that within the notes, the questions for the textbook I've scanned in and I've popped them into your notes for you, so that you will have textbook questions just like you normally have textbook questions. Okay, if I've done these notes in the degree of detail that I expect you to know them. Okay, so if you had the textbook, you would find there's way more detail within the textbook. But because we're doing this for grade 11, I'm reducing the degree of detail because I don't need you to know any more detail. So if you find a grade 12 textbook and see the grade 12 textbook content, you will find it's a lot more detail than the notes are, and a lot more detail than I expect you to know. Okay, so just go with what's in the notes. I'll never examine you on more than what is in the notes. Okay, you okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you guys okay with changing teachers in the middle of the year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you sure? What?
So you're going to be our teacher for the rest of the year?
Maybe, maybe not. So the first thing is we don't know how long this scenario is going to carry on for. As long as we're working like this, with some of the students at home and some of the students at school, we've decided to keep it like this, with me teaching both grade 11 classes and Mrs. Florenza teaching both grade 10 classes. It's just, teaching online is an incredible amount more work than normal for a whole lot of really complicated reasons. You don't expect it to, but it actually is. It's a lot more work for the teachers, and I'm sure for you guys it's also hectic. And because of that, it just became easier for Mrs. Florenza to do all the grade 10 stuff and me to do all the grade 11 stuff. And because it's been like that through the whole of lockdown, it is easier. I've completely lost touch with the grade 10 stuff. I have no idea what they've done. I've never had time to actually go into their classroom and see what they've done. And Mrs. Florenza hasn't had time to go into the grade 11 classroom and see what I've done with you guys. And therefore, for her to now step in and take you guys again, she's missing a whole chunk of work and understanding of what you've done. I can't go back into the grade 10 thing. I have no idea what they've done up until now. I don't know the detail, and I haven't had time to look at it. So there's no point in me doing that. It's not a good thing to teach you, for me to teach the grade 10s when I'm missing a big chunk of my knowledge. Okay. I mean, I've got that knowledge, but I don't know what they've done specifically. Okay, so let's go. Nervous system. Okay. Right, so I'm not sure if bells are going. Just warning you. So you might need to tell me it's the end of the lesson. Okay. Right. So I'm okay if you don't take notes. Everything is either in the PowerPoint, which you're going to get in any case. You're going to get a recording of the lesson. It's just not necessarily going to be there this afternoon. So this thing that's on the video machine, Mr. Ruzmiza will convert to a YouTube video, and he will send it to me as soon as it's ready, and I'll put it onto Google Classroom. However, and I don't know why this, is there a logical reason why this thing's mirror image? I saw you like frowning when I said that. Okay, so it's clearly showing this, but it's mirror image on there. Should it be? Okay. Anyway, yes.
Can I just ask, do we need to make notes, or is this enough detail if we just learn from this?
So it's absolutely up to you. It depends on your learning style. If making notes is your thing in life, or if you want to make notes on there, I don't care what you do. Okay, just as long as you're not 7 sentences behind me where you're writing down every word that I've said in my life. Okay, because that drives me insane. Okay, right, so this might take a little while to end up on Google Classroom is what I'm saying. So my lesson on Friday, Mr. Ruzmiza only sent me the video yesterday afternoon. But you're all going to be in exactly the same boat, so it's fine. Okay, you're right with that. And then that one I can also put on with the mirror image, blah, blah. Yes?
Ma'am, so the video we were supposed to watch on Monday was sent yesterday afternoon. On Friday.
No, with my grade 12s. Sorry, was that not clear? So what I'm saying is, if I record on Zoom, I can put it immediately onto Google Classroom. Stuff that goes through the video camera of the actual lesson might take a day or 2 days before it goes onto Google Classroom. So the stuff that I recorded in my grade 12 lesson on Friday, I only got yesterday. So those kids who missed Friday's lesson only got the lesson yesterday. But it's fine, because you guys are all together in one group, and we'll make sure that it all happens. Okay, right, let's go. So, when an organism is unicellular, Okay, the thing I use constantly is my little black slide changing thing. So you have to this thing. So I lose it often. So if you see me looking around for something, just go, it's there, it's there, it's there, wherever it is. Okay? All right. So if an organism is unicellular, like for example an amoeba, then that little cell does everything that a normal multicellular organism does. Okay, you happy with that? So, Chloe, why are you going ahead? That's fine. You can do what you want. As long as your marks are fine, I don't care. Okay, right. As soon as you've got a multicellular organism where different parts are specialized to perform different functions, then it's terribly important that those different parts work together with each other. Okay, so there's very little point in my eyes seeing a step if my legs don't pick up higher to step over that step. So there has to be a connection between what my eyes are perceiving and how the rest of my body responds to that particular signal. Okay, so that is called communication. And we're going to talk about the fact that there has to be communication between various parts of the body. Now, there are two different ways in which communication occurs in a multicellular organism. So the one way is through the nervous system, and the other way, why are you all itchy? You okay? Okay. Right, so the one way is through the nervous system, and the other way is through the endocrine or hormone system. Okay, so give me an example of communication between different parts of the... If writing notes is not your thing, you don't have to do it. You okay with it? Okay. All right, so an example. Yeah. Let's go. Of communication. Now stop cheating, you little brats. I can see you looking and reading the notes. An example of communication between various parts of the body which is done by the hormone system. The endocrine system, which is the hormone system. And you've just dealt with one. I beg your pardon? Okay, but I need you to be more specific than excretion. What specific part of the excretory process is controlled by a hormone?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
No, kidney?
That's very broad, Jen.
Oh, the nerve.
That's very broad. Carla.
Wasn't it the osmoregulation with the blood?
Yes. So the water levels of the blood is controlled by the endocrine system. And please don't write this down, because the next thing I know you're going to learn it, and then you're wasting your life. If I need you to learn something, I'll tell you to write it down. Okay. All right, so specifically, the water content of the blood is controlled by the hormone system, because remember that the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland releases ADH, antidiuretic hormone. If the blood water levels are too low, then ADH is released and more water is conserved. But if the blood water levels are too high, then no ADH is released, therefore more water is released in urine. Okay, you happy with that? So that's an example of the fact that one part of the body, which is the blood circulatory system, is controlled by the hormone system, which is a hormone ADH released by a gland in the brain. So that's two different parts of the body working together by means of the endocrine or hormone system. Okay, right. Off the top of your head, can you think of another example of the hormone system controlling something that goes on in your body? All right. Big fright. Say again. Adrenaline, good. So, if you get a fright, adrenaline is secreted, and that's secreted from a little gland which, remember, sits on top of the kidneys. The two adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys, and the adrenal gland secretes adrenaline. Give me 3 examples of places in the body that change as a result of adrenaline being secreted or released. Right, really steady, go. Okay, guys, you really gonna have to talk loudly with this mask thing. Chloe.
Would one be that your heart rate increases?
Okay, just not my heart rate. Why am I getting this from? Okay, the heart rate increases, good. The heart rate increases. You're taking out all personal pronouns, okay? Harla.
Isn't it your pupils also?
Why my pupils? Why am I getting this from? The pupils. The pupils?
Expand.
Dilate. Dilate. Okay, the pupils dilate. Okay. What's with the front?
Mom, is dilate when they go bigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so listen. Look at me. Dilate, constrict.
Thank you, Mom.
Okay, all right. And, come on, one more. Colloquially, you shit yourself. You know, when you say I got a fright, you say I shat myself. Okay? Yes? Okay? When you get a fright, you shit yourself.
Yes.
If it's bad enough. What's the purpose of that? You lighten the load. You can run a hell of a lot faster without that little thing sitting in your rectum. Now, I'm not 100% sure the reason why. They say it is to lighten the load, but definitely with getting a serious enough fright, people will defecate. Okay, right. So those are just some of the examples of communication between different parts of the body that occur. Is that somebody coming late, or is that you laughing because I've lost it? Okay, right, so if the ear hears a scary sound, the legs respond by running away from the sound. So there must have been communication between the ear and the leg muscles. Okay, right. So in the human, there are 2 different ways in which the different parts of the body communicate. The first one is the nervous system, and that is made up of the sense organs, the nerves, and what I'm going to call the central nervous system, and I'll explain that to you later on, that connects the organs. And secondly, the endocrine system. And those are the glands that secrete hormones, and you'll learn about that particular section when you reach the track. All right. Just a brief comparison. Now, I need to tell you the following, and I think I might have told you this during online lessons. So, at the end of last year, in one of the matric exam papers, in paper 2, they hadn't included tables for 1,000 years in the matric exam. You know, a table of comparison like this one. Just because it's really something that the grade 8s and 9s tend to focus on doing tables, but grades 10s, 11 and 12, we presume you know it and you're good at it and we don't focus on it. So the examiner for paper 2 last year included a table in paper 2, and it was absolutely appallingly done. The kids did it so badly. So it was quite obvious that because it hasn't been examined for a while, that the teachers had stopped focusing on teaching it. And as a result, the kids did really badly. And I think that because of that, the examiners might focus on including those again. Okay, so just going through it again and making sure that you know. Okay, the one thing that this table lacks is a good heading. Okay, so there should be a heading which explains exactly what is in this table. So the table would be, the heading would be something like a comparison of various aspects of the nervous and endocrine system in a human. Okay, so it's telling you it's a comparison, and it's telling you that it's between an endocrine and a nervous system and various aspects that are being compared here. Okay, in general, it goes like this. So the speed of the message, nervous system very fast, endocrine system generally speaking, not always, relatively slow. So an example of a relatively slow response would be the ADH thing. An example of a relatively fast response would be the adrenaline thing. Okay, but generally speaking, the nervous system, the message goes really, really quickly. Okay, you happy with that? Now, one of the things about doing a table of comparison, what is in this column, you must compare an equivalent thing in this column. You can't just jump and do something totally different. Okay. Type of message, electrical and chemical, and I'll explain that. This one is all chemical. The duration of the effect, not how fast it gets there, how long it lasts. Very quick, normally longer lasting. Okay. So for example, when the male body secretes testosterone, that effect lasts for much longer than something like you walk into the kitchen and you smell something cooking, and a few minutes later you've lost that. You don't retain that. Okay, right, and then the effect on the body. Okay. It regulates, the nervous system regulates the activities of muscles and glands by means of electrical impulses passing along little cells called neurons. Do you remember neurons from last year? Okay. And it's very specific in its target. It will only affect one muscle or gland or a few muscles or glands. So an example would be the eye sees the step, this leg muscle and that leg muscle take my foot up higher. Okay, and then those ones also go up higher. But the endocrine system, if you consider the secretion of testosterone in a male, it makes the beard grow, it makes the muscles grow, it makes the penis grow, it makes the testes grow, it makes all sorts of widespread effects happen, as opposed to, in this case, the target is much, much more precise. Okay, you happy? Right. So, communication in the body by means of, oh, no, it doesn't show. Okay, no, let's go back. Okay, so, communication in the body by means of the nervous system works in this way. A stimulus, we'll talk about that, affects a receptor organ. Okay, is my clock on time? 1 minute. Okay, let's quickly finish this and then I'll let you go. So a stimulus affects a sense or receptor